Welcome into Morning JOX, 6 a.m. here on your very chilly Wednesday morning. Did it get in the 30s overnight, Damien? Because
Yeah.
I looked up and when I woke up, my phone said 40 outside, and I went, oh, okay. It's a
Yeah.
little,
You can feel it, man. It's gotta let these bones and stuff thaw out a little bit, man. It's they were not exaggerating about this cold front. Woke up a little bit chillier than usual, but hey, I would much rather have the cooler start than to wake up and be sweating in 6,000 degree weather. But no, it is it's a cooler start. Welcome on into Morning JOX, JOX 94.5 on this Wednesday morning. What you want to see from your team on Saturday? This is what we do on Wednesdays, kind of start to look at the matchups that we have. Of course, we know the third Saturday in October, Alabama and Tennessee set to do battle. And on the Auburn side of things, after the bye week, you take the trip to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Missouri Tigers. And I think altogether this weekend, we kind of deemed it as soul-searching weekend because I think that you're going to see a lot of teams have this this sense of we need to win. And if anything is like the LSU Ole Miss game from this weekend where it almost feels like a must-win scenario for a lot of teams, I think we're going to see a lot of these teams start to separate from each other, especially just in the SEC. Of course, Georgia and Texas set to do battle as well. So this is that pivotal point in the calendar for a lot of these teams. If you know, we're going to know exactly where teams are after this weekend of, all right, the pecking order as far as the top half of the SEC, the middle of the pack, and who's at the bottom. And I think for a lot of these teams, especially for Missouri, so just kind of looking at the grand scheme of it all, you have to have this win over Auburn because I think if you find a way to lose this Auburn matchup, your hopes of a playoff are pretty much essentially done. I mean, you had the close nail biter with Vanderbilt, which in essence kind of looks like a better win as the season continues for both Vandy and Mizzou. But then you go down to Texas A&M and College Station and look like a JV football team. I mean, Brady Cook did not look good. You got a get-right game against UMass, but now you're back in conference play with Auburn pulling into town for the 11 o'clock kickoff Saturday morning. So I think when we look at just specifically that matchup in Columbia with Missouri and Auburn, it's, okay, how far away is Auburn from, I guess you'd say, pulling off this upset? Would it necessarily be an upset because Missouri has kind of dipped a little bit as far as their production as opposed to last season with double-digit wins? But I think that for Auburn, we hear Coach Freeze say that he's going to make it a point pretty much to give Jarquez Hunter the ball. Well, let us see it. Well, let us see, early on that you're establishing this run game and wanting to make a point that we need to put the ball in 2-7's hands no matter how we slice it up. It doesn't have to be, just straight up designed inside zone, outside zone. I mean, if you want to hit him on a swing pass, get everything comfortable, because I think that if you continue down this path of putting everything on Peyton Thorne for him to make the plays, Auburn's still going to find themselves in unfavorable situations, I think. So I think when you look at this Missouri defense, I mean, Connor Wigman, and, we know what the battle was going with Marcel Reed or Connor Wigman. He was able to light him up the last time we saw Missouri play a formidable opponent. So, I mean, it kind of gives you a little bit of it gives you a little bit of confidence that, okay, well, if Peyton Thorne plays like he did besides the 4th and 1 play against Georgia, or besides that one pass he made against Oklahoma, Auburn can keep this thing within reason. But I think defensively, your secondary is going to be tested, and we've seen them give up some big plays. Now you playing against one of the better receiving cores in the conference, and we're starting to see, Luther Burden's getting a little frustrated because of, the lack of touches, or he's not doesn't feel like his impact is being known or being felt throughout the game. But if you kind of get him out their game plan and kind of, you can stop the run game, you kind of have at least a puncher's chance if you're asking Brady Cook to go out there and beat you with his arm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the best case scenario for Auburn, but, you just hope that last week against UMass wasn't kind of the get-right game for the Missouri offense, and that kind of woke them up a little bit because, I think Missouri, they should be fired up for this game because, again, it's a game that you should win if you're Missouri, right? If you have really taken the next step that some people think that you have after last season, then, these are the types of games that you can't really lose. And I know it's been a weird year in the SEC, but, this is an opportunity for you to continue to show, okay, maybe we're not in that top category of the SEC, but we're right below that. And because I'm with you, if you lose this game, you're probably out of the playoff mix because the only game they have left really that's going to be a resume builder would be Alabama. And so that would be a great win if Missouri could get that win against Alabama next weekend. But then, are we looking at a situation where, if Alabama loses to Tennessee this weekend, and then you lose to Missouri next weekend, and then, how impressive is that win ultimately going to be in terms of helping you get back into the college football playoff? And, I think Missouri's going to be one of those teams, depending on what happens the next few weeks. It'll just be interesting to see how, when the college football playoff rankings actually start coming out versus the AP poll rankings,
Uh-huh.
how certain teams are going to be viewed because, the AP voters, they sent a pretty strong message when Missouri lost to Texas A&M. I mean, Missouri was down in the 20s. Like, they went from being in the top 10 to they were in the 20s. And, now they're sitting there at 19. And so you just wonder what would it take to claw your way back from like a number 19 spot up to number 12 or number 11, I guess, to get into the playoff. And, you're probably going to have to go undefeated the rest of the way in order for that to happen. But, you just wonder if that's the kind of team that the College Football Playoff Committee, did they view differently because, they look highly upon Texas A&M and, their rankings sometimes are a little bit different than
Yep.
how the AP poll goes. So, but no, this is absolutely a big opportunity for Missouri. And then, I mean, for Auburn, I think we all know, as we talked about earlier in the week, if you want to get to a bowl game, you're probably going to need to win this football game on Saturday. And it's a winnable football game, and it's a winnable game on the road against a good team. Like, this would be a very good win for Hugh Freeze and for Auburn. This would be Hugh Freeze's best win at Auburn if they were able to get it on Saturday. And, we've seen Missouri struggle at times, and, if Auburn's able to go out there and put something together and play a clean game, I think they're going to have a really good shot. But again, it's, how much were you able to improve on in the bye week? Are some of the mental errors there, are they better? Does Peyton Thorne have a better understanding of how to run the offense? Because again, it's just, I want to have faith in Auburn. I want to believe they can go out there and win that game. I think they can, but I've also seen them lose football games in a variety of different ways,
Uh-huh.
and it's just, again, until I see it, it's just hard for me to know what to expect from Auburn on any given Saturday.
Right. And I feel like we've reached that. It's difficult to see where the confidence level is in this Auburn unit, especially this week. So do you, as an Auburn fan, do you feel like the bye week was needed? That, all right, we didn't have the best of starts to the season that we expected, but this could be that turning point in the season where you get a big win over Mizzou. Then you got the trip to Kentucky. Then you have Vanderbilt coming into town. They are still winnable games, but to your point, if you want to be in a bowl game, you're gonna have to beat Missouri. And I don't necessarily think the pressure is on Auburn right now. I think the pressure is still on Missouri because of, them being a ranked team and everything that they've been, they still have a lot of football ahead of them. But the perception of this Missouri team has changed because of how bad they lost to Texas A&M. And again, it could be that Texas A&M is one of the better teams in the SEC. But I think for Auburn's sake, this week specifically, if it's a get right situation and you find a way to get this one, I can see how you could feel confident for the back half of your season because you still got you welcome Texas A&M to your place later on. Of course, the Iron Bowl has something to say as well. So I'm interested to see what we're going to get from Auburn after the bye week. Did they add a little bit more wrinkles? Are we going to see, less, I guess you say less focus in trying to just distribute the ball and truly just giving the ball to your playmakers? And that's Jarquez Hunter. To me, the engine goes by what 27 does out of the backfield. And I think that you're able to establish the run because we've seen a lot of teams start to gash him a little bit. You look at what Le'Veon Moss was able to do early on in the game against Missouri there against Texas when they played Texas A&M, and it seemed like they were gashing them left and right. It felt like offensively they could do no wrong. And I do think that you have the talent that is capable to put up the same amount of numbers as Texas A&M as long as you don't turn the ball over. And it's crazy as it seems, it's hard to tell this Auburn team it's hard to believe that they're not going to turn the ball over because we've seen it at such a high clip early on this season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the good news is that the last time you were out there, you played a clean game, so you at least have, the last experience um, you have on the field. Like you had that problem corrected, but again, you go and look at the Georgia game, and I understand that you're operating at, you're playing from behind a lot of that game, and you're having to catch up. Granted, it was still relatively close in the first half, but I mean, Jarquez had 13 carries for 90 something, like 90 yards. Again, I understand you're playing from behind. You have to press a little bit, but it's like, man, okay, so if he has 20 carries, what is he going to be at? 150 almost? And, we'll see. We'll see on Saturday. Maybe, maybe Hugh is going to keep his word this week, and he really meant it when he says, we need to get 27 the ball more. Because, yeah, obviously you do. But that's going to be one of those things of have you really learned from some of the problems of the first half of the season? And I think that's going to be one of the telling signs is how involved Jarquez is in that game plan. And I
Yep.
know you're going to hear though, you got to take what the defense gives you, and I understand that, but sometimes you also have to give the ball to your best player and trust that he's going to make some plays for you. So, yeah, this one's going to be interesting because like you said, I think if you're Auburn and you win this football game, this is probably it's probably a big confidence boost just knowing that you're coming off of a bye week, you're going on the road against a ranked team, and you are able to figure out a way to win a football game. And I
Hmm.
think that's what a lot of these guys on that team need to see is they need to just see them win some football games and have some confidence that, hey, maybe even if things don't go perfectly, we can still win, right? Like it doesn't have to be a perfect performance from everybody in order for us to beat somebody in the SEC. It's just getting that win under your belt and then being able to just kind of ride that wave of momentum going forward. And, for Missouri, again, you got back to back games against teams in the state of Alabama. So get used to us.
Yeah, yeah. It's
We'll be back here talking about this a week from now.
Yeah, so anything that Brady Cook shows us on Saturday, it will be it will add to the ingredients and the I guess you'd say the levels of what we're going to see next week as well, because they do make the trip down to Tuscaloosa to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. But it's the third Saturday in October, Conrad. It's time to lock in on Alabama, Tennessee. What do you want to see from these teams over the weekend? Because again, the slate is absolutely beautiful, and also it starts to change what we see in the SEC standings as we continue to move forward. So your text message, your calls, 205-834-9450. Always welcome. What do you want to see from your team over this weekend? Keep it locked right here as we continue the conversation on the other side of Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. 6:16 here on Morning JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and you as well. 205-834-9450. Your text message, your calls. What do you want to see from your team this weekend as far as the game plan? Do you want to see them run the ball more? Do you think that the quarterbacks need to make the plays for you? But also, I mean, when you just look at the slate that we have for the weekend, of course, we know the big matchup, third Saturday in October, Tennessee, Alabama. Alabama takes the trip up to Knoxville. You know what happened the last time Alabama went up to Knoxville for this game, don't you?
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you had remembered.
I also remember what happened 16 of the other 17 times that these teams played.
You know how rivalries go. You just throw the record books out the window.
When you've won one of the last 17?
No, but this game has it's changed its form these past couple seasons, I will say. It's gotten more competitive.
Absolutely. I mean, even when, Tennessee wasn't great, I mean, there were still a number of competitive games in that series.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, granted, they were more frustrating from the Alabama side of things because it was, not great Tennessee teams or, Mount Cody kind of having to save the day, things like that.
Right.
But, it just kind of adds to everything. But, that's kind of what, I get interested in with these kinds of matchups is, again, there's a couple guys on this Alabama team that were there, a part of that team that went to Neyland and lost and will have that memory and probably a little bit of that chip on their shoulder. But you also wonder, and this is kind of part of, maybe another part of the transfer portal where I know you can get ingrained pretty quickly, but where does the rivalry rank, I guess, for players of today's day and age, right? Do they still view it that way? Because, during his press conference earlier in the week, somebody asked Heupel, how weird is it going to be coaching this game and not having Saban on the other side? And it's, essentially his answer to that was just, well, this rivalry goes way back before me or Coach Saban gets here. Like that, there's the history of it,
Right.
You have to go back a ways to really understand, I guess, the importance of this rivalry. And so you just kind of wonder for the kids, like the players, how does it resonate for them? Because I wonder if now for some of the Tennessee fans, you look at it more of like you're saying of, recently this has been a pretty competitive game. Last year we kind of had them right where we wanted them, down 21-0, and ultimately we allowed Alabama to come back. And, for the Alabama guys, is it still that, you're just kind of like, I mean, as Tennessee, you get up for it. It's a rivalry game, but you're like, I mean, it's a rivalry, but not really because of how dominant Alabama's been in the series in recent history. So it's, I always think that element of it is kind of interesting, but I think that's a big part. I just think that's a big part of the game on Saturday is how fired up are the Alabama players, because they didn't look fired up to me to go and play South Carolina. I know what we heard from DeBoer and the coaching staff about how prepared they were during the week, how great they responded from the Vanderbilt loss. And okay, that's great. You responded well in practice, but you're not responding. It's almost like going back to the whole Peyton Thorne thing earlier in the season. It's, well, I can't go with the guy that doesn't play the best in practice. Okay, well, I'd rather have the guy that plays the best on Saturdays personally. And this is this is a time for Alabama where you have, again, you can go one of two ways. This season can either go downhill really quickly, or you can kind of figure some things out and remind everybody, hey, all right, maybe we're not the best team in the country right now, but we can still go out there and we can win these games that we have to win. And because I think if you're Alabama, I think if you lose to Baton Rouge to LSU and you finish the year 10-2, I think you're in a good spot when it comes to the college football playoff. I think if you lose this game, it certainly makes the LSU game a must-win, no questions asked at that point. But I just think the LSU loss might look a little more favorable, on top of the fact that LSU, the rest of their schedule isn't all that tough. So if you lose to an LSU team that goes 10-2, that's going to look pretty good. But, I think we just have question marks about Tennessee, and are they going to continue to struggle or take some more losses? And, both of these teams need to win this game really, really bad. This is going to be a bit of a desperation game, I think, for both of these teams after two bad weeks.
Yeah, and if it's anything like we saw with LSU at Ole Miss, like that one felt like a playoff game. We talked about it yesterday, that if this is the level we're going to see from these teams moving forward, like every weekend is going to be so important. And I think especially this weekend with it being a rivalry game, we know how Knoxville gets, we know how Neyland gets for big games. I mean, if you even watched the Florida game last week, how loud it got for Florida, imagine that times two when Alabama comes into town. And I just think that for just about every game we're going to see, we got, Georgia taking the trip to Austin, Texas, to take on the Longhorns. I can imagine that game having some high moments, some key moments as far as, okay, if Quinn Ewers comes out the gate and the slow start he had against Oklahoma. Granted, it was Oklahoma on the other side. You can't really afford that with Georgia on the other side because they've shown that they can play up to the level of competition. I mean, we got LSU taking on Arkansas. If LSU ain't careful, we've seen what Arkansas was able to do. Just ask Tennessee 2 weeks ago. I mean, like when we look at just even our expectations coming into the season of what we thought these teams would be, one of the biggest question marks we had was where is Arkansas going to be in all of this? Because we hadn't seen Taylor Green before. We didn't really know how the Bobby P and Sam Pittman, offensive blend, how offensive mindsets was going to work. But it's been comparable these past couple games, and really and truly, Oklahoma State, they shot themselves more in the foot than Oklahoma State really beat them. I mean, you saw how UAB competed with them later on. But I think when you look at the Texas A&M matchup, it was a fist fight all the way until pretty much the last 5 minutes of the ball game. And it just, a turnover here, if you can control that pace, control that tempo, and keep Garrett Nussmeier off the field as much as you can. But I will say Garrett Nussmeier, he's known to serve you up one. So keep your eyes peeled if you're in the secondary for Arkansas. But when we just look at the SEC schedule as a whole this weekend, we asked, what do you want to see? And we've been getting some feedback here on the Jocks text line. Alan texts in, he says, I would love to see Alabama play to their talent level. I don't expect a perfect game, don't expect a thrashing. But if we play to our talent level, we win hands down. Roll Tide roll. I think that's fair. Steven, he texts in and says, good morning, guys. With us, and I mean the LSU Tigers, having the hardest schedule remaining, do you think that if we were to lose two more, we still have a shot in the playoff? If you lose two more,
I mean, probably not. I mean, you have Alabama and Texas A&M left.
Right.
I was about to say, you do not have the hardest schedule left in the SEC. I'm sorry. There are,
oh, yeah.
Let's look at what Georgia has left. Look at what Florida has left. No, I mean, if you're LSU and you lose, because here's the thing. All right, if you lose to Texas A&M and Alabama, who are the two best teams left on your schedule, and you're 9-3, your only good win is over Ole Miss.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's not a good win, but
it doesn't hold as much as it did.
No.
Preseason, pretty much.
Exactly. But then what happens, let's say you lose to Arkansas and then you beat Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Does that really help you? Probably not, because now you're losing to an unranked team. So it's just, I think a 9-3 team getting into the playoff is going to be difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm sure it's going to happen at some point. It's just, I don't know if we're going to get that in the first year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, if you're a team like LSU, I mean, I look at it like this. If I'm an LSU fan, all right, we split with Alabama and Texas A&M. We kind of control our destiny, right? Because every other game you have to feel like you should win. So if you can just split those two games, then, you're sitting pretty right there. But if you're, you have a couple opportunities to bolster that resume, and if you lose those opportunities, then yeah, I don't see that happening.
I'm telling you, man, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens this weekend. Somebody texts in and says, I want to see Tennessee's offensive line block and give pass protection, which is the same thing I wanted to see last week. Yeah, it does seem like they have some growing pains there on the offensive line. They're not consistent enough for what Josh Heupel wants to run offensively. Mm-hmm. I think in the run game they're fine, but a lot of it is because what you have in the backfield and Dylan Sampson is he covers up a lot of the mistakes that you may have on the offensive line. But as far as keeping Nico upright, yeah, I mean, they've been giving up a few sacks these past couple games. But granted, it could be that, these defensive lines have gotten better. And I'm interested to see if Alabama can continue to bring some pressure against Tennessee in this offense, because it's shown that when Nico gets rattled, he's extremely human. He's not as polished as you thought he was coming into the season, because we only got such a small sample size. And again, it was just a bowl game. So now every start, he's starting to see a little bit more of what it is being the guy, being the man, week in and week out.
Yeah, and if you're Alabama, you really need somebody to step up on the defensive line because at this point, like we kind of know how it's going to go for Alabama defensively, right? If they blitz, they're going to get pressure on the quarterback and they're going to have success. Sometimes that's going to come back to bite you, but so far for Alabama this year, that's when they've been able to get after the quarterback. And you go back to the Georgia game when they were able to make him uncomfortable. Go back to last week when they were able to make Lenore Sellers uncomfortable. But can you get pressure other times? Can you
Mm-hmm.
have guys that can break through and can just go and make a play? I mean, we talked about, I think somebody texted and said the other day, like some of the plays that you see LT Overton make are so impressive, he just can't finish them.
Mm-hmm.
Can you have a guy that can make the play and finish it? Tackling's been a big problem for Alabama as well. Is that something you can shore up? Because that's something that, in my opinion, is just inexcusable. When you have multiple times a game where you're in situations that you can take a guy down at the line of scrimmage and you're allowing him to get 2-3 yards. Those are the things that keep drives alive, or a conversion on a 3rd and 2 that keeps the team on the field. They have to get better in those areas. And this matchup is just so interesting from all right, is this the opportunity for Alabama's defense to kind of get into a rhythm against an offense that's struggling, or is this going to be the time for the Tennessee offense to kind of revert back to what we saw earlier in the season and take advantage of this Alabama defense? Because I mean, right now, I think, Arkansas's defense is good.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are legitimately good. I think they have a better defense than Alabama does right now. I think Florida is maybe more comparable, but again, these are teams that you would look at and go, you probably don't have as much talent on the defensive side of the ball as Alabama, but you're getting better results out of what you have out there on defense. And so, we'll see if what Womack, kind of talked about in his press conference is true of, you got to go through these growing pains. And as we get further in the season, you're going to see a team start to figure it out defensively. And okay, that's great, but you need to figure it out when you can still win these games and keep yourself alive as it comes to the postseason. It's not going to be great you know, if you're figuring this out against Mercer when you're 7-3, nobody's going to care, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's mm. When you made the comparison to Arkansas and Alabama, like until you said it out loud, it's yeah,
Their defense is better than Alabama's.
they are.
They've played
They
better.
play better, yeah.
I don't say that. I'm not saying they have better players in terms of how many players are going to end up playing in the NFL or anything, but I mean, look at the stats. They're better.
They are. Dang, until you said it out loud, it just didn't register. It just hit my ear funny. Like, dang. Then I kind of look back. Yeah, they are. Like I don't have as many question marks about Arkansas's defense as I do for Alabama consistently week in and week out. Like I kind of know what I'm gonna get. So it's crazy, man. It's SEC, brothers and sisters. We're coming into the season. We knew it was going to be crazy, but I don't think that we expected it this early. And it's going to continue this weekend with some big time matchups. What do you want to see from your team on Saturday? We continue with your text messages, your calls as well. 205-834-9450. Keep it locked right here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. 6:37 here on Morning JOX, JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and of course, you, our wonderful listeners. 205-834-9450. What do you want to see from your squad on Saturday? Jamie texted in and says, gap integrity and tackling. Right, Conrad. Great discussion, morning. Good morning, fellas. Roll Tide. Morning, brother. Drake texts in and says, I want to see you win, but also want to see how DJ Lagway performs. I'm assuming he's a Florida fan. They got Kentucky this weekend.
You got to feel decently about Lagway with what he was able to do at the. Look, I know there's going to be plays that you kind of just throw your hands up, but man, that last touchdown he threw against Tennessee, that was a big boy play.
Dog.
That was a.
He looked.
Again, these
he looked like one of them ones.
The plays that he has made at times when he's in, you go, okay, we can work with that. Again, he's a freshman. Give him some time, but he's got it.
He does. And, I mean, he's big. He can make his arm's got some pop to it. Like, he lets it rip. He's like, oh.
Oh, yeah, he's got a live arm for sure.
For sure. Let's see. Luke from Central Ohio says, can y'all talk about Mark Stoops, how Mark Stoops continues to cancel out amazing wins with nonsensical losses? No, I can't, because this is exactly who he is his entire career. He's always been like this. Listen, I don't have to get on my diatribe about Mark Stoops. I think he's one of the most overpaid coaches in the SEC. And again, he's at Kentucky, so they're cool with about 7 or 8 wins. Hey, that's fine. He'll be there forever.
I mean, that Ole Miss win bought him another decade. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. 205-834-9450. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's talk to our buddy Love this morning. What's happening, big dog?
Oh man, we doing it about y'all.
Man, can't complain about a thing on this Wednesday.
I heard that. Look, when I got off the phone with y'all yesterday, I went back and listened to the interview part of me being on there, or something like that. And it sounded like I said a phrase that Tennessee people say. I did not say that. I would never say that. I can't say that.
Oh yeah. When you wrapped up, I thought you said go Vols right there before you said anchor down. I was like, wait a minute, did you just say go Vols?
Yeah. And I was like, and in my head, I said go Vandy. But apparently my mouth was not cooperating.
Right.
Listen, I can't even say it. Listen, go what? I can't even say it, man. I can't even say it. So that's not what I said. I was trying to say go Vandy. And I just want to, I didn't want to bring shame on me and my family. And, but I just want to say that. And I got a joke for y'all. It's a really corny dad joke. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Why are pirates so angry?
I have no clue.
Because they just are.
Yeah, he said it was corny, so I'll give him credit. He did. He prepared us for that. I just love the fact that that's some hate right there. Is hey, I got to call back because I accidentally said something positive about a team I don't like. So I have to call back in the next day to clarify that I did not mean to say those things.
Right.
That's.
Yeah, I could have sworn.
I respect that right there.
Because I could have sworn he said it. I was like, wait a minute.
No, he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
But he wanted to come back. He's like, nope, not doing that. Not doing that. Let's continue on the line. Let's go to Don't Do It, Pruitt. What's happening, big dog?
Morning, fellas. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Man, I don't know if y'all feel the same way as I do, but it ain't Halloween yet. But I feel like this week's the scariest week of the season.
Man, I'm telling you, it's soul searching Saturday, big dog. Your team's got to dig deep and see if they really want to win this thing.
I think both of them want to win it. I don't know who's going to show up to take it. I'm hoping my Crimson Tide pulls it out, man. But what I really want to see, man, I really got to see Jalen Milroe just start taking what the defense gives him out there, man. He's taking sacks. He's trying to go out there and win every down, every play. He's trying to win the game in one play out there, man. He just needs to calm down. I'd like to see some nice, short, high percentage passes. Get these talented wide receivers with some yards after the catch out there, man. They're fast. They're shifty. Let them get the ball in their hands and get them moving down the field a little bit. We don't have to get a big chunk all at one time every time.
Yes, sir.
Man, I really, really like to see the running game start to establish a little bit more. Need to see some consistency out there, man. I mean, I'm not begging for much. 4 or 5 yards a carry, man, that would make somebody respect you out there in the running game. Just some things that I'd really like to see from the offense right there. And then defense-wise, man, I don't know where it's been, but we haven't been able to set the edge like we used to be able to. We're not really doing well on setting the edge or gap responsibilities out there. We're not looking well in the sack department. We need to pick it up on getting the quarterback to the ground. We do good on pressure, but we don't get him to the ground enough. And just getting off the field, man, just got to get off the field out there. We can't be out there for 18, 20 play drives, just killing us out there. And that really, a lot of that comes back to another big thing that we've been struggling with is the penalties, man. We've got to clean up the penalties out there. I think Kalen DeBoer said it himself. We've got to figure out how to play the game the way it's supposed to be played. I love my Crimson Tide boys. I'm proud of them. But I just really want to see them step it up, man, and play the kind of ball that we know they're capable of playing, man.
Yes, sir, man. Brew, we appreciate you as always, man. Roll Tide.
Yeah, I think one of the problems for Alabama, too, is that each of the, kind of all the issues that he just laid out there is they all impact each other in a way, right? And so when you have one thing go wrong, it leads to another thing going wrong where, we can sit here and say we want them to run the football more, which I would like to see them do. Kalen DeBoer said, as much, fun as we made a few frees for saying they're going to get Jarquez the ball more, Kalen DeBoer said the same thing on Monday. We need to get the tailbacks the ball more. Okay, well, you kind of have some say-so in that decision, so let's see it happen. But when you are not getting off the field on third down, or you're having, roughing the passer penalties where you're hitting the quarterback in the face, after he throws the ball, and just making these stupid penalties that it's not a third down conversion, but you're keeping the drive alive. It might as well be, right? Because you're giving them a new set of downs to work with. And so it's like, because that was part of the problem against South Carolina is you did get better outside of that one drive at getting off the field, but then you had the penalties that were keeping some of their drives alive, and then you give up the touchdown on fourth down, and it's just, okay, that's not great. And then you're giving up an 8-minute drive to start the second half of the game. You're now down and you feel like you have to press a little bit. And so that's going to eliminate your ability to run the football because as we've seen this offense go, they like to throw the football. And we know that, but it feels like there are times where they feel like they have to throw the football and they really don't. They can kind of slow it down a little bit. And so all of their issues just kind of compound on one another, and it causes this huge mess. Whereas instead of it being isolated incidents, they all kind of impact each other. And, that's the thing for Alabama. There's just so many ways that they can improve. And I feel like when it comes to penalties and tackling and those fundamental aspects of the game, you can get better at that.
Yep.
But it's also shocking that we're halfway through the season and you haven't really seen a lot of growth in those areas.
Absolutely, man. I agree with you 100%. Continue to get some reaction on the Jocks text line. Phone lines, of course, are open 205-834-9450. Somebody texted in and says, DeBoer. Wait a minute. Okay. These are 2 text messages I'm going to read right here. DeBoer is going to continue to show that he is in over his head this weekend. We will get the butt whipping we deserve for making the lazy hire and hiring a guy that has never coached in an environment like this at any position. Burn needs to be gone yesterday. He follows this up with, he wants to see DeBoer get his first win in a hostile environment. So it went from get him out of there to let's win.
I just want that person to text back in and tell us who you want or who you think they should have hired.
Right.
Because again, I get it. People are frustrated. We've heard this the past 2 weeks now. I have not heard a single person give me a suggestion for people that have texted and called in and said, oh, they made a bad hire. Well, who do you want? Well, I don't have a name for you. Okay, so you want to criticize the hire, but you can't think of a single person, and don't tell me Kirby Smart.
Right.
Or Steve Sarkisian. Like, I'm sorry, those people were not, that was not going to happen.
I don't understand. I don't get it.
I mean, you can be frustrated with the guy, but if you don't want him there, I mean, at least give us who you think should be there.
Maybe he's a Dan Lanning guy. I mean, Dan Lanning, he got the NCAA after him now after one play. Just say it was good. It was a good game.
Dan Lanning's a great coach. How many times has he beaten Kalen DeBoer?
0. And was favored both times. After Washington already beat him in the regular season, Vegas doubled down and said, nah, Oregon's the better team. Ha. Kalen DeBoer said, hold my White Claw. We'll continue the conversation on the other side. Keep it locked right here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. .651 here on Morning JOX, JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, here with you for a few more moments as we get you set for McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Coming up at the top of the hour, the guy takes back in. He's saying that the board needs to get out of there, but yeah, he wants to see him get his first win in a hostile environment. He texted the coach that he would have chosen. He says Clark Lee. Okay. If you thought the jump from Washington to Alabama was big, I can't even imagine what it would have been if Alabama fans would have hired Clark Lee to run the program instead of Kalen DeBoer at the beginning of the season. Because up until this year, I couldn't tell you Vanderbilt's biggest win that he's had since he had been there up until this season, but it is what it is. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. 205-834-9450. What you want to see from your team this weekend? Somebody texts in and says, I want to see Alabama's defense get more 3-and-outs, and I want to see someone on defense step up and be a leader and hold the rest of the team accountable. Yep, I agree with you 100%. Let's continue on the phone lines. Let's go to Melvin. Wants to talk some ball with this morning. What's happening this morning, Melvin?
All right, guys. Good hump day. Good hump day. You know, I love the orange and blue, and I want to see this weekend. I want Auburn to make it a point. I want them to make it a specific point to give Jacquez Hunter 25 kills.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Whether it's screen passes, whatever. Give that guy 25 carries. Make Missouri stop him.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, if they start to load the box, okay, that opens up other things for Thorne.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, Damien. We cannot continue to put the game in Peyton Thorne's hands. He's not going to deliver. So, I mean, do you guys think, we got an opportunity to, and on Missouri. I think we have a good opportunity to, come into that game with that mind frame is to establish the run. That's where I think we should go with this game, man, and hopefully, we can come out on a win end. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, we appreciate you as always, Melvin. Let's continue with a little bit of Auburn talk because we got War Damn Don Don pulling up. What's happening with Don Don?
All I know is that, Melvin, you are spot on, my friend. Way to go, Melvin. Way to talk Auburn football, Melvin. Good job. He's absolutely right, Damien. I've been saying it for the last, me and you both and Conrad, we've all been saying it all year long. Give 27 the stupid ball.
I'm telling you, man, don't even overthink it. Just a dive here, dive there, toss here. Like, just find a way to give 27 the ball. It shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah, and you know what, Melvin's actually right. I mean, if they stack the line to try to stop Hunter, then that opens up Lambert Smith and Cam Coleman if he can catch the stupid ball and everything. But guys, hey, Conrad, I was looking at the rushing stats, and to me, the key for y'all got to stop Dylan Sampson.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the engine that keeps the Tennessee offense rolling at this point because he is by far the best player on that offensive side.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Well, guys, thank y'all for everything. I enjoyed it as always yesterday. And Damon, great to meet your teammate yesterday, by the way. Great guy.
Oh, absolutely, man. Shout out to Jalen Holly, bro. That's my dog. Appreciate you, Don Don. Yeah, it's I'm still tripping off this fact that this dude, I should say Clark Lee should have been the one to get hired over Kalen DeBoer. Like, no disrespect to Coach Lee, but let's be for real now. Let's be for real. Hastings texting, he says, hold my claw and bring back Rich Rod.
Nah.
No, I think we good on that front. But hey, it's Tennessee hate week, y'all. Or so I've been told. Third Saturday in October. It's time to lock in. What's going to happen this weekend? What is going to happen later on today? I'll tell you what, McElroy and Kublik in the morning, they're coming up right after this.